In 1943, the following directive was issued from party headquarters to all communists in the United States. It read, "When certain obstructionists become too irritating, label them after suitable build-ups as fascist or Nazi or anti-Semitic, and use the prestige of anti-fascist and tolerance organizations to discredit them. In the public mind, constantly associate those who oppose us with those names which already have a bad smell. The association will, after enough repetition, become fact in the public mind."
Good morning, folks. I'm Tabitha Hassell. Welcome to Tabs on Tap. Good morning, Joe. Good to see you here so early. Now, they haven't changed their plan much, have they? It's still their game plan, isn't it? If they don't like something that you do, guess what they do? They call you a Nazi and a fascist. Still happening. I've seen countless Teslas with the word Nazi written on it with swastikas. It's like, how does a game plan last this long? How? They started this program, 1943, and it continues to today. It's absolutely ridiculous. Good morning, Rob. But Pam Bondi, she's not messing around. She is not messing around. We're going to talk about her in a few minutes because she's making arrests. She gave an announcement, and I'm going to play it here in a minute. And good morning, Mary. Do you remember there was a guy in Colorado that firebombed a Tesla dealership and burned all of these Teslas? Well, he fled. I'm guessing he was trying to make his way to Mexico. I'm not sure. They arrested him in Plano, Texas. Well, they're pushing for 20 years, as they should. As they should. Let's not forget, some of the J6ers got 30 and 40 years in federal prison who weren't even there on that day. The couple of these leaders of the Oath Keepers and, of course, the Proud Boys, they weren't even in Washington, D.C. that day. 30, 40 years in prison. It's time to turn things around, isn't it? Good morning, Michael Noonan. Good to see you. Tammy Jerry Hoover. And good morning, Mandy. Good morning. Robert says, "Creature from Jekyll Island." Yes, it is. And I'll tell you, there's some crazy stuff that's going on in the world every day. I feel like I wake up and things are crazier. Good morning, Linda. Something I'm going to jump into really quick because, I obviously I'm going to be talking about a lot about health in the near future. And speaking of health, somebody sent me a text message this morning, and I appreciate that, your thoughts and all. But, I'm getting my thyroid ultrasound today at 4, hoping for good results there. But I was supposed to also get my head CT. This is what's frustrating, and I'm sure most of you can share in this frustrating. It's the doctor's offices. I have I think a good doctor. She's great, but it's like the office staff is always the problem, isn't it? It's always the problem. Now things may turn around as the day goes on, but the hospital where I'm getting my ultrasound, I live out in the middle of nowhere. So everything's really far away from me. So I have to drive 40 something miles each direction. So my doctor said, "Oh, we'll do your head CT scan on the same day as we do your ultrasound so that we can just do it all at once." And I'm thinking, well, that's really good. Then I don't have to take as much time away from work. I could make that 40-minute drive to get it done, take my 40-minute drive back. But no, I called yesterday and at the hospital, oh yeah, they can definitely get my CT done at the same time. I call my doctor's office and they're like, "Well, why are you talking to the hospital?" And, "Oh, we don't have your insurance authorization. I haven't even submitted it yet." I'm like, man, people, get on the move. Get on the move. So frustrating. I'm sure I'll be complaining a lot about doctors and appointments. It's like my doctor put an authorization through to one specialist, and they told me, "Oh, I can't get an appointment until October." I'm like, I can't wait until October. Don't they have like emergencies or something? Good morning, Karen. And so obviously talking a lot about health, and I've been thinking about all of the different things, of course, we put in our body. I think we all need to start thinking about these things. And I'm not a big coffee drinker, but I know most people are. Now I like iced coffees, and I don't use this particular coffee creamer, but I'm going to show it to you. And these are one of the things that I'm going to start moving away from because in the morning, I've gotten in the habit of drinking an iced coffee. I can't stand warm coffee, but I have one of those. I think mine's not. I do have a Keurig, but my son uses the Keurig, and I use the other one. I think it's a Ninja, maybe, I can't remember, coffee maker where it makes iced coffee, and I absolutely love it. And I buy all those different little flavored pods. I probably have a couple hundred pods. And then I used all these different, sugar-free creamers and stuff in my coffees. But it's all poison, just so you know. It's all poison. If you're not grinding your own coffee beans, don't trust what's in those little pods. Who knows what's in there? And then the coffee creamer that you're using, unless it's pure cream, again, you have no idea what's in there. But I'm going to show you what's in there because it will blow your mind. Lori says, yes, tell your doctor to place the order ASAP urgent. I know, Lori, that's exactly what I did yesterday. And they did place the order for the biopsy urgent. But you know what? That was a week ago, and the pulmonary doctor still has not scheduled anything. And, the stuff like this, if it is anything bad, and I hope it's not, it can move very quickly. I'm like, I don't have time to be waiting around on these appointments, but you got to do what you got to do. Anyway, so this is one of the things that I also plan to eliminate. I have got to move away from coffee pods and move away from fake coffee creamers because I'll tell you, it's just more poison we're putting into our body.
Do you know what's actually in this coffee creamer that you're drinking every morning? This is the #1 selling coffee creamer in the US, but what is actually in it? Let's find out. For ingredients, we have water, 315 grams of sugar, canola and soybean oil, micellar casein, mono and diglycerides, natural and artificial flavors, cellulose gum, dipotassium phosphate, last but not least, carrageenan. They market this as non-dairy, cholesterol-free, and gluten-free, which is technically true, but calling it a creamer is maybe a bit of a stretch. If I was to rename it to what it actually is, I would probably call it sugary oil water with added preservatives and essence of cream.
And that is what we're putting in our bodies every single morning for some of us. For some of us, Peggy says, Aldi's has organic half and half. I hear so much about Aldi. In the town I live in, we have a Rural King, a Walmart, and an Aldi, and that's it. There is nothing else. And so I have been to Aldi a few times since I've lived here. I was never a big fan of Aldi before. But I will tell you, they do have a lot of organic products and a lot of products that are supposed to be healthier for you. But I'm just kind of to the point where I don't trust it at all. I don't trust anything that's prepackaged because even though they might tell me, oh, this is so healthy, I just don't believe it. I just don't believe it. I'm trying to find a local farm, that has fresh cream. And from now on, if I'm going to drink a coffee drink, it's going to be fresh cream. I'm getting rid of all my coffee pods. I'm getting rid of all those creamers. No more. No more poison is going in this body. It's going to take a while to change things, but it's going to happen. Mandy says, I make my own almond milk in creamer. Little time consuming, but worth it. Mandy, I've heard so many mixed things about almond milk. I always think, how can you go wrong? If you're making your own almond milk, I think that's absolutely fantastic. And I almost bought a machine that makes almond milk so you don't have to do all that hard work. But I've heard mixed reviews from doctors about the health benefits of almond milk versus, anything else. But I don't think it can hurt anything. And it's the same thing. If you're buying almond milk from the store, can you trust the ingredients? But if you make your own, I think that's a whole different story. I think almond milk would be by far the better alternative, by far. Tara says, I stopped using the Keurig, back to my old-fashioned percolator or French press. Tastes better anyway. I am with you on that, Tara. We've got to go back to the old ways of doing things. We just have to. We're just killing ourselves over what? Convenience. It's just that. It's convenience. Now, I don't care about coffee that much to where I just have to have a coffee. I really don't. There's so many other things I would rather drink, and really what our bodies need is water above all. But you usually wants that little kick in the morning. I love my little Starbucks iced coffees as much as anyone would. Of course, there's no Starbucks within probably an hour and a half, 2 hours of my house. So I don't get many opportunities to have Starbucks. Good morning, Karen. But we've got to. And, I was reading something else too when it comes to sugar, because, sugar is important to so many people, including myself. I mean, who doesn't need sugar in certain things? The reason why I use these, 0 calorie, 0 sugar coffee creamers is because, of course, you want them to taste sweet. I cannot stand the taste of coffee, which is why I don't even know why I bother, putting poison in my body that I don't even really like, just get a little caffeine in my system. But I was reading this and I thought this was kind of interesting when it talks about sugar, because there are ways you can do things that are healthier and still have something that has a little bit of a sweeter taste. And so I'm going to read this to you. This is processed sugar, which is pretty much what all of us use. If you're going to your grocery store and you're buying a bag of sugar, you're probably getting this processed sugar. It is nothing like what the original real sugar cane would give you. And so here's the difference. Now, processed sugar is acidic to your cells. Natural sugar is alkaline to your cells. We all know alkaline is ideal. That's where you need to be. Processed sugar breaks down rapidly. Natural sugar breaks down slowly. And that's, of course, very important when it comes to your molecular makeup, and it comes to the, of course, people who are diabetic and your glucose levels and so on. Processed sugar causes insulin and blood sugar levels to skyrocket. Of course, natural sugar keeps insulin and blood sugar levels steady. Processed sugar causes acidosis. Natural sugar reverses acidosis. Processed sugar, no fiber to slow digestion. Natural sugar actually has fiber and it can make you feel full. Processed sugar, not satiating to the brain. And then natural sugar is satiating. Processed sugar causes inflammation. That's the biggest problem to me with sugars, causing the inflammation. Natural sugar reduces inflammation. And processed sugar, addictive to the brain. Natural sugar, not addictive. There's a lot of this list goes on. I'm not going to read the whole list. What are some examples of natural sugar? Of course, your raw cane sugar, which these days you can buy raw cane sugar at just about any grocery store. And you can certainly get it online or at some of these like Whole Foods. There's places where you can actually go online and buy pure cane sugar that was just processed like the day before. So there definitely are some alternatives. Of course, you have raw organic honey. That's usually my better. If I'm going to choose, I would probably choose the raw organic honey. I've bought a lot of that in the past. Pure maple syrup, agave. These are all, some options. You don't have to put poison in your body. But how many people think about that? That all this sugar that we eat is all processed sugar. Unless you're really going out of your way to get natural cane sugar or to use raw honey or pure maple syrup, it's all just fake. Our food system is fake. It's making us sick. Robert says natural sugar from beets, not cane. Yes, I've heard that, Robert. There's a lot of different things that have, natural sweetness to it. I like fruit. Quite honestly, I've kind of gotten myself in a habit. When I was in Georgia getting out the vote for Donald Trump, I really got myself in the habit where if I wanted something sweet, I would eat grapes. And yes, it's still sugar, but it's natural sugar. Our body can handle that type of sugar. And I absolutely love grapes. So that, and especially, here in the summertime, some stores are already getting them. They've got these little purple grapes called candy gems. They are my favorite. And yes, they are very sweet grapes, but you know what? It's still better than eating sugar. It's so much better than eating sugar. And let's see, Robert says counteract sugar problems with mineralized salt. Salt is a big deal. And I'm glad you said that because, talking about thyroid cancer is really high in countries that have a lack of iodine. It's interesting how iodine affects your body. Something to think about, something I'm going to be researching in the very near future. Dottie, do you recall what brand of air purifier you had installed in your last house? Dottie, gosh, what was it? Right now I don't remember, but I will remember by tomorrow. And I can message you or talk about it here on the show because an air purification system in your home it does wonders. In mine was put in by Chesterfield Service out in West County or in St. Charles County. So you guys can always contact Chesterfield Service if you're interested in one of those air purification systems. Because I went from sneezing every single morning to having that air purification system installed. It's like a whole house air purification system. And that thing was amazing. It seriously was amazing. I wish I could have figured out how to take that darn thing off of the furnace and bring it with me, but I didn't know how. I didn't want to break the furnace, so I just left it. It probably would have been pretty easy. But I wish I did have it. I'm going to have to buy another one of those because they are absolutely fantastic. And Annette, allulose is natural from dates. I did not know that, Annette, but I'm actually going to purchase a tree today that grows dates, and I have another one with different kinds of figs that I'm going to be ordering today because those are all things that you can use as natural sweeteners. And Robert says, I helped a guy who went on a fruit diet that went into diabetic coma in the hospital. I recommended the family to give him 1 tablespoon of salt. You know, Robert, interesting you say that because there are people called fruitarians. And for some reason, they can't seem to survive that fruitarian diet for very long. There was just a really popular TikToker who passed away who was on this fruitarian diet. You cannot eat just fruit. As a matter of fact, I know I can't because I tried. I actually tried this fruitarian diet and I've never been so sick in my entire life. And I love cherries. I absolutely love them. And I thought, well, I'm going to eat grapes and cherries and be on this fruitarian diet. Oh my God, I was so sick. As a matter of fact, to this day, if I eat cherries, which I still love cherries, but if I eat a handful of cherries, I get sick. It did something permanently to my body. I never thought about eating salt. And Pam says, I was told about iodine by my chiropractor yesterday. I bought supplements for my daughter-in-law. Take some iodine. Seriously, guys, I'm going to be looking into this in the future. Obviously don't take my advice. I'm not a medical professional. I might become one soon enough, but take your iodine, and a lot of people too don't realize that your salt, table salt, it can have iodine in it. And so it's not maybe as bad for you as you might think. People need to get their iodine in. There's a reason why, of course, they put it in there. And Stacy, good morning, Stacy. Organic, not GMO, also to regulate blood sugar levels. You can use apple cider vinegar before a meal or use Ceylon cinnamon. Cinnamon in itself is extremely healthy. I was thinking about that this morning, that if I start making a iced coffee like I like, that how I would do that would be to grind my own coffee beans, healthy coffee beans that I know where they're being sourced from. And then I'm going to use natural cinnamon because I like cinnamon and cinnamon is very good for you. And then I'm going to use some fresh cream that I bought from a farm, because you know what? You cannot go wrong with that combination. And let's see, Robert, remember, hospital saline is salt. Yes, our bodies need salt. Lori says dates with some peanut butter on it, almost like a Snickers bar. Lori, I had no idea. I've had like not granola, but granola type bars that were made from dates. Many years ago when I was really young, I was on a raw food plan for a really long time. Also just to stay healthy and so on. And I ate a lot of date-based foods, and I really liked it. It does make a big difference. Bread's another thing, that we've got to eliminate from our diet. We're all buying bread off the shelves because why? Because it's so convenient, but yet it's full of, what is that called? Potassium bromide, which is deadly. It's poison for you. If bread lives on the shelf too long, guess what? It will harm you. Make sourdough. Why do you think there's so many people making sourdough bread right now? Everywhere you turn, there's 1,000 bazillion videos of people making sourdough bread on Facebook. Well, that's why, because we need to be healthier. I need to start my sourdough mix, I guess. That's something I've not done before. And let's see here. Stacy, read the book, Glucose Revolution. Very eye-opening. I'm going to have to do that. Sugar is definitely my problem. Mary, seek help for iodine. Mary, I did not know that. I'm going to have to look into that. Robert, I take Lodoro. I don't know what that is. Supplementation. Iodide. I'll have to look into that too. I'm learning a lot. I have some that, is it Celtic sea salt? I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Celtic sea salt that I bought online from like some specialized salt dealer, and the stuff was so expensive. I haven't even touched it yet. I'm like, I'm going to use this for special occasions, but maybe I'm going to use it all the time. Maybe there's ways of doing things, but either way, I'm not going to go on about that stuff today. But don't wait until it's too late. Start now. Go through your cabinets, go through your pantry, clean out all the junk. Just get rid of it. Get rid of that poison. God forbid, don't feed it to your kids. Don't even feed it to your pets. Just get rid of the poison. I know that poison is convenient. It is so convenient to go to the store and buy your poison off the shelf. It really is. I know because I've done it. We've all done it, but it is worth going the extra mile if you really like something and do something to eat whole foods. It really is. I've got a lot to change in my diet, a lot to change, but you know what? I'm going to work on it. Kimberly says, does anyone know how much Himalayan or Celtic salt is to put on water to drink? You mean how much you put in your water to drink, or do you mean how Yeah, I'll have to read that again. Robert says bromide and fluoride will block necessary iodine for your thyroid. Yeah, it's interesting you say that, Robert, because I was reading these studies on thyroid cancer and how the levels of thyroid cancer are increasing exponentially. And they blame a lot of that on the lack of iodine, which is really crazy to me. And you know what else? The second cause they're saying, and we'll talk about this maybe more on Friday, is the use of, semi-glutide, Ozempic. I was just watching a video about it yesterday where they were talking about how, even though I think it's fairly rare for this to happen, people who are taking these semi-glutide, which is of course Ozempic and some of these other brands of these injections, they're getting thyroid cancer, medullary thyroid cancer. And I don't know why, I don't know what's behind it, but I was reading about how the synthetic chemicals, how they were derived from this something called a Gila monster, and which is a poisonous reptile whose venom is supposed to be far more venomous, more powerful than even a rattlesnake, is how they derived. Of course, it's all synthetic now, but still, something to think about. Definitely something to think about. And Linda says a friend dumped expired spices on the ground and it killed the grass. Are you serious? Wonder what kind of spices those were. Annette bought 35 calorie, 100% whole wheat bread from Aldi, no potassium bromate. Thank you, Annette. I'm going to have to go to Aldi and take a look at that. And so, people, if you're looking for some shelf stable bread, maybe that's your option. Do not buy anything with potassium bromate in it. Just don't do it. I don't care how much you like it, how convenient it is. Look at your ingredients. If it has potassium bromate in it, put it back. Kimberly, how much should you put? Oh, should you put in a glass of water for drinking? I don't know, Kimberly, but I'm going to look that up tonight and I will have that answer tomorrow because that is important. And so lots of other things to talk about today, but I'm going to be talking about health a little bit every day. I'm going to be looking for products to make us all a little bit healthier. I don't know what my tests are going to show. I really have no idea. Hopefully it's just an infection or inflammation and not as bad as it sounds, but it doesn't matter either way. Because you know what? When you have a little bit of a scare and you think, gosh, maybe this is a really big deal. You start thinking, not that I wasn't already thinking about it, because I was already changing my habits and getting rid of Teflon and nonstick and using cast iron and, trying to do some different things already health-wise. But man, we got to step up the pace. That's what it is. We have to step up the pace. There's no waiting. Got to do it today. So start right away. Anyway, lots of other things to talk about, but we will be talking about all of this some more. And Robert said something about heavy metals. I love cilantro, and a lot of people, if you really look, cilantro, if you eat a lot of cilantro, it's supposed to clean the heavy metals out of your body. I know some people don't like cilantro. They say there's like 50% of people who like cilantro, 50% of people think it sounds like smelt or tastes like soap. I'm one of the people who likes cilantro. So thankfully for that, because heavy metals are also a really big deal. I was thinking about that the other day. I know this has nothing to do with what's going on with me now, but I kind of laughed about it and I thought about it that years ago, remember how we used to have those thermometers that had the little drip of mercury running through the thermometer? And at one time when I was, I don't know, in my early 20s, I dropped one and it broke. And that little ball of mercury just went flying across the room. And I kept trying to clean it up and catch it, and I couldn't. And I finally got it and, disposed of it. And I'm thinking, man, now it's coming back to haunt me. But I'm sure that is not the case. And Stacy says food dyes are awful for us, especially for uselessness. I'm with you. I am ready to get rid of the food dyes. I think they can't do that fast enough. Turmeric, pepper, honey, 1 tablespoon a day. I've heard that's really good. Something else that a lot of people are doing that I see are they're taking garlic cloves, fresh garlic cloves, and mixing them with honey. And I think some people put a little bit of cayenne pepper in it, some people don't. And there's other things you can put in there. Some people put in onions, and you let it sit for quite a while, and then eventually it becomes a tonic. And people say it's just great for everything. But again, I want to make it very clear, not a doctor. Not involved in the healthcare industry whatsoever, just things I'm learning on my own. Stacy says at least the mercury thermometers actually worked, right? I know, isn't that funny? To think that we once used mercury thermometers and now it's like, oh my God, mercury is so bad. So I don't know if you guys heard about this yet. You know, Elon Musk. Oh, mercurochrome. Yes, I still have some mercurochrome around here somewhere. Oh, Stacy says it's called fire cider. I was wondering, but you know, that's like a huge rave for the past couple of years all across social media. Is of course that tonic with the garlic cloves and the honey, and I think a little bit of cayenne. And I keep meaning to try it, and I haven't got around to it, but maybe now's the time. I did buy my papaya so I can start eating my papaya seeds. I guess I'm going to start doing that today. Yesterday, Elon Musk, of course, you know, this is what's so funny is that Elon Musk, he gets slammed no matter what he does. If you guys remember in Pennsylvania during that swing state election, we were talking about this yesterday, how he gave out, you know, a couple $1 million to people who signed his petition. He did the same thing in Wisconsin yesterday. The guy is the wealthiest man in the world. If he wants to give away a couple $1 million, it's not swaying anyone's vote to sign a petition. You know, that's not swaying someone's vote. But today, for one day only, it was yesterday and today. If you want to make some money, you can go on social media. If you know anybody in the state of Wisconsin, they have a candidate there called Tim is it Schmeimel? And he is, I can't say his name right. Tim Schmil. CHMIL. If you have your cell phone and you hold up a photo of him and the thumbs up in the other hand and you post it on social media, has to be you, and then you have to get somebody in Wisconsin to do it. You will each get $20 up to $1,000 a day. That's all you've got to do. Candidate running in Wisconsin that we desperately need in Wisconsin. If this guy doesn't win, Wisconsin is going to have some problems. We got to get all those people in. I am perfectly fine with Elon Musk paying anyone he wants. Of course, the governor of Wisconsin now filing a lawsuit against Elon Musk saying he's trying to buy votes. You know, he's not trying to buy votes. You know what? We're already there. We're already there. So whatever Elon has to do to get the ball rolling, I say we do it. But you know, something big going on today, and I don't really know exactly who it is or what they're talking about. I'm going to play the audio clip for you in a minute of Elon Musk talking about a big arrest that's supposed to take place today. And the only thing I can think of that it could possibly be is that he's made another cryptic post. You know, yesterday we talked about the Social Security Administration and how they were somehow handing out Social Security numbers to illegals. Remember, we talked about this yesterday. Back in 2021, there were, what was it, 270,000 illegals that had Social Security numbers. And then in 2024, it jumped up, I think it was either 2.1 or 2.5 million illegals that had Social Security numbers. We talked about that yesterday, and it's big news story all around, you know, those numbers are. Well, how did they get them? You know, we know that what they're being accused of, they being Democrats, someone, we don't know. Whoever gave the illegals the Social Security numbers is the they. We don't yet know who they is. But apparently, you know, definitely somebody on the Democrat side, and they being the they we're not sure of, were somehow pocketing the money. I watched a video last night. It's too long to show here, but was a reporter, a journalist who was going out talking to illegals at these different migrant centers saying, how did you get your Social Security number? You know, how does that help you work? And countless times people were telling him, you know, yes, when I came into this country, I was here for about a week. I was issued a Social Security number, but I had to pay for it. I had to pay for that Social Security number. And then whoever this broker was that gave me my Social Security number, they got a cut out of my Social Security payment. So we kind of talked about that a little bit yesterday. That was before I saw the video. Elon Musk had told us that they were getting a cut on these Social Security numbers. You know, you're giving out this maximum amount of money to illegals, people who at this point had never worked a day in this country, and being their Social Security broker, that's the best term I can come up with it, they were getting these kickbacks. So who is it that's getting the kickbacks? We don't know. So I'm wondering if that's the person who is getting arrested. Is it one person? Is it more than one person? And then, of course, we have, you know, today, Elon Musk put a pretty cryptic message onto X, and it says, they, not sure who they is, deleted a terabyte of financial data to cover their crimes, but they don't understand technology. So we recovered it. Does this have to do with the big arrest that he's alluding to? Something is going on. Something is going on. And what is that something? I don't know. And I'm going to play this audio clip. Now, I don't have any way to authenticate that this is Elon Musk. I believe it to be. It sounds like him. Somebody could say, oh, it's AI. There's no arrest coming. And again, I can't prove one way or the other. So all I'm going to do is play the video clip for you. And then we're going to wonder who the they is.
I believe someone is going to be arrested tomorrow. This is someone who actually stole 400,000 social security numbers and personal information from the Social Security database, and was selling social security numbers and all of identification information in order for people to basically steal money from Social Security. And this is like, by the way, a particular avenue of fraud for like illegal immigrants and for voter fraud, because the main way that identification is established in the United States is via Social Security. So if you compromise the Social Security system, you can basically get people to get de facto registered to vote, even if they're not citizens, and to get a bunch of benefits and to milk the system. It's pretty insane. Like the Democrats basically taken every part of the government that could possibly be bent towards providing financial incentives for illegal immigrants to come to and remain in the United States, whether it's Social Security, disability, Medicare, unemployment, even like IRS refunds without any income. It's wild. The diverted FEMA funds, which is supposed to be for helping Americans in distress from natural disasters, to pay for luxury hotels in New York for illegals to stay there. In fact, they're still there. Those hotels are still active.
Sorry, had to unmute myself. Mr. Parnell said it sounds very AI generated. And, somebody else said that too. But here's the thing. Elon Musk has said, outside of saying somebody's going to be arrested, he has talked already about these exact same things. We know the situation exactly is happening. Now, did somebody add in a little clip that, there's going to be an arrest, to add to this in an AI way? Maybe. There's certainly no way to know. And the only way we will know, of course, is to wait it out and of course, see what happens. But I believe there's a good possibility it could absolutely be true. Everything else stated in this video clip is absolutely what Elon Musk has stated many times over. We know this is happening. We have video of it. Elon Musk has definitely talked about the fact that these Social Security numbers are being stolen. We don't know who it is that's stealing them. Now, Elon Musk probably knows. I don't know. We have not heard any specific names. Surely someone within the Social Security Administration, I would have to assume, they've gone in somehow into that Social Security system. They have taken out hundreds of Social Security numbers and distributed them for money. They're like a Social Security broker. That's the only way I can possibly describe it. Who has access to the Social Security system to where they can go in and get a block of Social Security numbers and sell them to illegals? I mean, that is, to me, one of the biggest scandals maybe we've ever faced in our country, if this is all legit. And it certainly sounds like it is. And me giving that assertion has nothing to do with that video clip. That's already information that Elon Musk and Donald Trump have both told us that actually did happen. The only thing new today is maybe there's going to be arrest for this happening, but someone within who has access to the Social Security database has somehow bought a block of Social Security numbers. They've given it to illegals. They've allowed, this is how important this is. Like I said yesterday, it's not just giving them a Social Security number. They've given them the max amount. You might have worked your whole life and only get $600 or $700 a month. These people are given the maximum allowance, which is over $2,000, I believe. And, it's wrong. It's not right. And these people, then they're going and getting a job. And here's what's crazy. And now we see why crime is on the rise in these couple of sectors. You hear there's a massive lawsuit right now going on against rideshare services, Lyft and Uber, because of so many people being sexually assaulted by the drivers. There's all kinds of problems with DoorDash and some of these other companies. Well, now I think we're starting to understand why, because when I watched this video yesterday, all of these people they stopped and talked to, they said, okay, so you got your social security number. What did you do with it? Oh, I went and got a job. Well, where did you get a job? I got a job with Uber, or I got a job with Lyft. I got a job with DoorDash. So these are people in our country who, or truck driving, by the way, over the road truck drivers. These are people who've only been in our country for a matter of days, somehow buying social security numbers, getting full benefits, and then using that social security number to go and apply for a job at places that just don't do a very good job checking. And again, that's going to be your rideshare services, food delivery services. Then you got to start asking yourself, are you safe getting in a rideshare? Are you safe? You have no idea who is behind the wheel. And one of the guys was even asked, well, I don't remember if it was Uber or Lyft. Did they question you? Do they realize you're not an American citizen? They said, no, they didn't. How can this be? This person, doesn't even have a driver's license at this point. I don't understand what's happening. It's crazy. And now all of a sudden, if you order a DoorDash or and the reason why I'm naming DoorDash is because that was one of the names specifically mentioned by a couple of these people, as was Uber and Lyft. So I'm not, committing any kind of crime of libel by naming these companies. That's what was named in the video through an investigative journalist. And I can share that video to my Telegram. I doubt Facebook or some of the others will allow me to do that, but you can pretty much share anything on Telegram, which is great. But, it makes you wonder, okay, so now you're ordering DoorDash, you have no idea who's coming to your door. And we know that people, I'm sorry to say, and I'm not trying to be a jerk about this, but we know that people in different countries, some other countries, they don't do things like we do. They have different rules. They don't respect women. They don't respect our rights. They don't respect our sanctity. And now are we going to have, problems with DoorDashers coming to your door, scoping out your house, sexually assaulting you? Who knows? And I know that sounds pretty harsh because certainly not every person in our country illegally is a pedophile or a rapist. Of course they're not. But there certainly are some that are. We know that because we certainly see, the cases play out before us. It's pretty darn scary to me. And Mr. Parnot, those who illegally have the social security numbers cause major problems for people who actually had the number. It was reported like 10 years ago when taxes are filed, the income is different, flagged by the IRS. Yes, to some degree. The IRS, unfortunately, doesn't catch everything, but they'll catch you. They don't care about these people because they've been directed not to care about these people. But trust me, you do something wrong, they're going to get you. That's for sure. Mary, it's infuriating. Yes, it is absolutely infuriating. Absolutely infuriating that people are in our country. And I hope that whoever is giving them selling them, not giving them social security numbers, they are selling them social security numbers. So these illegals might get $2,500 a month in social security, but whoever this person or organization is, probably an NGO that's giving them their number, is selling that number to them, and they're getting a kickback every month. And so my guess is, and I don't know this, my guess would be that an NGO or a person, an entity bought this block of social security numbers, selling it to the illegals. And where do the payments go? Are the payments being issued directly to the illegal, wherever in the migrant center or wherever they might be staying? Or are those payments going back to the NGO or whoever that entity is, and then they're issuing the payments to these people? How are they getting their kickback? That I don't know. And then, of course, as we talked about yesterday, Elon Musk also insinuating that money that's coming back in kickbacks is what's being turned around and used against us in these different violent protests. So it's just a big crazy roller coaster of stuff going on. And Abe says, yes, simply cultural differences. Exactly, Abe. People do things differently in other countries than what they do here. We know that. And so we have people, look in the country of Congo. In the country of Congo, what is it? 96% of women have been sexually assaulted. I read those numbers on the show a while back, and to think then people come here in our country, and it's very common to sexually assault someone and absolutely think nothing of it, especially children. So it's a problem. It is definitely a problem. And I for a fact am not going to use another rideshare anytime soon until these rideshare companies get this straightened out. I don't use DoorDash or food delivery services anyway. In my area, it's pretty rural, not as much quite, as much to worry about, but in a lot of other more populated areas, I would certainly be worried. Mary says, who approved it? They get the maximum Social Security number. It goes by your earnings, not for illegals. It doesn't, Mary. And that's really why it's such a big deal, is because whoever this person is, I would suspect it has to be somebody pretty high up. How do you just buy a block of Social Security numbers? I don't understand how that works. And then how do you just disperse these Social Security numbers? Because somehow you're getting these Social Security numbers. It's going to these illegals. I mean, is it in their name? Is it in made up names? Maybe that's all the Social Security numbers that are in the system for people who are over 120 years old. Which, by the way, I just read yesterday that Elon Musk and the Doge department has gone through the Social Security system, and they have deleted, I think it was close to, gosh, I wish I could remember the number. I think it was close to 10 million. They deleted 10 million Social Security numbers out of the Social Security Administration. I think it was 10 million, either something along those lines. And these were people, of course, allegedly people who were in the system who were over 120 years old. And so they marked them all deceased, took them out of the system. Whoever was receiving those payments, your payday is over. Payday is over. And we're going to see more of that, more paydays for these people that are over, because it's your money. They're just stealing your money. It is absolutely insane to me that this is happening. Something else going on, that I've heard little rumblings about this for a while, and it sounds like they're kicking it into full gear now, is the investigation of folks, let's say in Congress, who've been getting kickbacks. The Department of Doge, Donald Trump, they want to know how much money did they receive? How did they receive it? What bills were signed that gave them kickbacks? Were they getting paid by lobbyists? How are they making this money? And so now it's official that there is an investigation that's taking place to audit members of Congress, not just Democrats, all members of Congress. And they're going to get to the bottom of how, as Elon Musk puts it, how they became strangely wealthy. They're receiving X number of dollars in salary, and all of a sudden they're worth many millions of dollars. Was it insider trading, kickbacks? We don't know. But I think it's fantastic that they're going to get to the bottom of it. Now, will they really get to the bottom of it? Will we know who got the kickbacks? I hope we do. I hope we do, because the Department of Doge said they want to know where this money came from. How did they receive these millions of dollars? And how did they receive it? Why did they receive it? We all want answers. And I think we're going to get those answers. Pam said, oh, somebody says, I've noticed less certain ethnicities in Sam's and other stores. Yeah, I've heard a lot of people who are worried about ICE, making arrests or not going to a lot of the public places that they were once going. Pam says the money we are paying into Ukraine was being laundered. Oh, no question. Coming back to us for a BLM and Antifa purposes. No question about that. But it does make sense that illegals are given Social Security numbers, believing they're paying into Social Security and that money is being used for nefarious purpose. Yeah, you're exactly right, Pam. All that money that was going into Ukraine was absolutely being laundered. And, if you recall that video where Zelensky, Trump says, oh, we gave Ukraine $350 billion. Zelensky says, oh, we only got 77 or 75 billion. Then everybody's like, well, wait a minute, where's the rest? Everybody's like, oh, Zelensky's lying. Maybe he's not lying. Maybe after all the kickbacks and all of the money that was funneled to all these different places, maybe that is all that ended up in the hands of Ukraine. And then how much of it ended up in Zelensky's own pockets? That's what I'd like to know. And you're so right, Pam, that all of this money is going out. It's being money laundered. And then it's just coming right back at us. It's being used against us. It's going to, Soros has NGOs. There's quite a few of them, actually, he's formed. And we know that he's behind a lot of these violent protests. Not all of them, but we're going to start finding out some answers. Who is behind these protests? When we see these violent protests that have taken place in the past, and we know that there's big pallets of bricks and frozen water bottles and bats delivered and set out on street corners. Who is making those deliveries? Maybe we're finally going to have some answers as to who that is and how they received their funding. And what's so crazy is to think, like you said, Pam, that they're using your own tax money against you. You're working 73 cents of every dollar you make going into taxes, and they're taking those taxes and using them against you. Makes no sense, does it? Makes sense to them, doesn't make any sense to us. But I'll tell you what, though, Pam Bondi, she is not going to give up. She's not going to give up. I've got a little video clip of Pam Bondi. Some of you have probably seen it already. I think it's really important to play because she is not playing around. Absolutely not playing around. Not only with these domestic terrorists who are going out committing all these crimes against Tesla dealerships, the owners of Tesla and Teslas and so on, but also she's going to get to the bottom of this fraud. She vows to prosecute anyone who has committed this fraud against the American people. I'm going to play this quick video clip here, and I think this lends to that clip of Elon Musk, potentially Elon Musk saying that there's going to be an arrest. Who is the arrest? We don't yet know, but I think we will find out soon.
I've made it clear, if you take part in the wave of domestic terrorism against Tesla properties, we will find you, arrest you, and put you behind bars. Today, I'm proud to announce that the Department of Justice has unsealed federal charges against another Tesla attacker. We've charged Cooper Frederick in the firebombing of a Tesla dealership that occurred on March 7th in Loveland, Colorado. All of these cases are a serious threat to public safety. Therefore, there will be no negotiating. We are seeking 20 years in prison. The crime was committed in Colorado, and thanks to the great investigative work by the FBI, the defendant was arrested in Plano, Texas. Let this be a warning. You can run, but you cannot hide.
Got to turn myself on. You will not hide from Pam Bondi or the Department of Justice. Not today, people, not today. I love seeing it play out. Another thing Pam Bondi has talked about in other clips is she is going to look into these NGOs. Who registered these NGOs? And of course, it always turns out to be family members, right, of a member of Congress or a member of the government, their son, their daughter, their spouse, their cousin, anyone they could. Oh, hey, can I put your name on this NGO, non-governmental organization, so I can siphon millions of dollars to you? These people are all being investigated. We all want justice. We all want to see arrests being made. And I think we're finally at that time. I think we're going to see arrests being made. She has vowed to prosecute this fraud. And something else she's vowing to also look into is these different organizations that go out and get the vote. There's a lot of different organizations out there, some good, some bad, but they're going out and some of them are using, illegal methods to get voter registrations. Stacey Abrams, remember her? What did she get, like 10? Was it 10 million? 10? I can't remember. I thought it was 10 million votes through some type of registration process where they're going out and trying to harvest ballots and so on. So, I think that these are programs we need to look into, like Acorn or Public Allies. These people use a lot of different means to go out and get voter registrations. And a lot of those voter registrations are illegals. They have their resettlement coordinator come out as soon as they, arrive in this country. They're told how bad conservatives are, how great Democrats are, and that if they vote Republican, then they're going to be deported and everything else. And, honestly, that was true. Can't really deny that one, but at the same time, most of these people who come into our country, a lot of them absolutely would be conservative, particularly the people coming in from Mexico and some of our other, North American countries would absolutely be conservative. However, the minute they come in, they say, oh, well, if you vote Democrat, we're going to give you all this free stuff. You can register to vote. And of course, Democrats, that's exactly what they want. They want illegals to vote. And not only were these people getting these Social Security numbers, but at the same time that they got their Social Security number handed to them, they also got their voter registration papers. Because if you have a Social Security number, they're like, oh, go out and vote. And now, of course, there's the SAVE Act, which we're trying to pass to make sure that all states require proof of citizenship in order to vote in our American elections. Well, of course, Democrats are against that, aren't they? Now, I will never understand that. Why would a Democrat or any person in Congress be against proof of citizenship to vote? I mean, that goes back to our Constitution. Isn't that what we're all about, is our Constitution? And yet we have half of our Congress who wants illegals to vote, half that doesn't. Pretty crazy situation, in my opinion. But you know what? We're finding out a lot of stuff. You might find this as interesting as I did. There's a lot of information being, oh, I dropped my earpiece. A lot of information being uncovered. Anna Paulina Luna, Florida Rep. Anna Paulina Luna, today she is going to disclose her report on the JFK files. Now, I don't expect a lot to be heard. We'll listen to what she has to say. I don't think there's going to be anything mind-blowing in this report. I think it's all what we kind of already knew. I don't even think there was a lot of validation in that report, but you know what? We'll hear her out, see what she has to say. That's going to be at 2:00 today. I think that's an Eastern time. I'm not going to be watching. I think it's going to be a huge waste of time, but I'll catch up to it later and see what's going on. But there's a lot of other revelations coming out. There's some very interesting things, in my opinion, being revealed. And allegedly part of that JFK file release led people into some other files and some other information that I didn't comb through these files in great detail, but a lot of people did. And some of the things they saw, I thought this was kind of interesting. Some of the things that were allegedly recovered in these files about the CIA. Former director of the CIA, John Brennan, it stated, now how this became part of the JFK files, I will never know, but it was revealed at the same time somewhere within those files. The only thing I can guess is that the CIA, somebody out there was continuing to investigate some of the things the CIA did, and that somehow made it back in those files. I don't have the answer for that. Maybe Anna Paulina Luna will talk about that today. But it said here that John Brennan, now he was the CIA director, as you probably know, or became the CIA director. But John Brennan, he was the CIA daily intelligence briefer for Bill Clinton. And I thought this was pretty interesting. But in 1996, he was also the CIA station chief in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. And he issued passports to the 9/11 hijackers. Did you know that? And we all know that they had passports and that they were all here. Later on, of course, he came to become the CIA director. But 15 of the visas issued to the 19 hijackers from September 11th, 9/11, were issued by John Brennan. There's always so much talk about how 9/11, was a false flag operation or a CIA operation. There's so many people who think that. And it's kind of interesting because I saw a video the other day, which I wish I would have saved it, but I wasn't planning on talking about 9/11 anytime soon. And it was a man, and some of you have probably seen it. Robert, if you're still here, I know you probably saw it. It was a man who survived 9/11, and he was just walking in the building when he said a bomb exploded. And he said that what he witnessed was an explosion on the lobby, the main floor of the World Trade Center. And then after that explosion, the first plane hit. Then after the first plane hit, of course, a short time later, the second plane hit. But this man, this was an interview he gave immediately after. This wasn't weeks after, days after. He still had the dirt and the ashes on him. Thankfully, he was able to get out, and he shared his story. He said, no, it was before the plane hit. There was an explosion in the lobby. And so those are things, of course, we've all talked about before. So I kind of doubt Anna Paulina Luna gets into anything about 9/11, but it's just more revelation that I think we all need to talk about. Something else that came out in these JFK files, and again, how all this comes full circle to things that have been more recent, I don't know, was that the CIA, they added poisonous substances, poison, to Cuban sugar that was sent to Russia. So the CIA poisoned sugar moving between Cuba to Russia. No wonder Russia doesn't trust the United States. We tried to poison them with their sugar. I mean, isn't sugar poison enough? We had to add some poison into the sugar. I'm thinking, well, they're probably poisoning us and our sugar too. We just haven't realized who's behind it. Also, they poisoned cows in East Socialist Germany to make the images of the poor East and prosperous West clearer. So they poisoned cows in Germany then, of course, when the cows became ill, they took photos of them And they said, oh, Germany's so poor. Look at their sick cows, when in fact they were actually poisoning the cows. They also put soap in children's gosh, I can't talk today, children's milk, soap in children's milk. They blew up railways and carried out sabotage actions, in Germany. None of this surprised us, man. The CIA has been up to some crazy stuff for a long time. We, the United States, we've been up to some crazy stuff for a really long time. Now, some of you may have seen this. I'm not going to play the video because it's not in English, but there is a video that goes along with this. And I hope if you guys haven't seen it, you need to look this up. Argentine President Javier Milei, we've talked about him before. He has ordered the release of all documents regarding the Nazis that came into Argentina after World War II. Now, he claims that when World War II ended, that actually Hitler did not, in fact, die at all. Now, this is, again, one of those rumors we've heard for probably our entire lives, and it's always been a big conspiracy theory. Well, this is the president of Argentina who says it is absolutely true that the United States gave, through the CIA, safe passage to Adolf Hitler into Argentina, where he I guess wherever his bunker was, there were tunnels. He used those tunnels to go to an airfield. We, the United States, allowed safe passage for him into Argentina, along with a lot of other Nazis as well, real Nazis, not Elon Musk Nazis, real Nazis, not Tesla drivers. And these people escaped into Argentina, where they continue to live throughout their lives. And according to Milei, of course, again, the president of Argentina, who claims he has proof that this has happened, and he's demanding the proof to be released, that not only did Hitler escape to Argentina, but he lived another 20 years in Argentina, fathered 2 children, was married, and lived out his life in happiness and peace. I think that is a huge, huge revelation. Absolutely huge. At the help of the United States. Of course, and that's why, of course, we know we need change. I hope that they release those documents. I hope we see them all, because I would love to know what actually happened. I'm sure some of you probably would too. Something that's been conspiracy for all this time, that maybe we actually did allow Hitler to escape. And then, of course, you got to think about some of the other people. You hear these stories now about Epstein. This was what kind of made me think about Epstein. Oh, Epstein died in jail. Remember, it just happened to be the cameras were turned off. The 2 guards were taking a nap. They just weren't around at the same time the cameras were off. And then mysteriously, he hung himself on a bunk bed, with a sheet, which I don't even know if that's possible. We had a medical examiner who said that his hyoid bone was not broken, which would typically happen, in that type of situation. And so it does make you wonder, our CIA, they've been up to dirty tricks for a really long time. So did Epstein really die, or did they allow him safe passage, just like they did Hitler? Just like they did Hitler. Lots of things to think about. So before I head out today, some of the other things I wanted to talk about very quickly. We got some storms coming tomorrow, so please keep an eye out for what's taking place with those storms. We've been really in the middle of it lately. Some of you probably less than where I'm at right now. We're kind of in the middle of the most severe area. We had some pretty bad storms on Sunday. They came through, a lot of straight line winds, no damage, nothing else really happening. But I, like you guys, when we had that storm on September 14th, it was pretty bad. I didn't know it at the time, but a tornado passed right by. Gosh, maybe, I don't know, 200 yards, just to the west of my house here. It was crazy. It took a whole path all the way across. It was just an EF1, but still, that's, you just never know. So please have a plan in order just in case for this severe weather. I don't know about you guys, but we had so much hail damage here, so much hail damage. I finally got the estimator to come out the other day, but this is another reason why insurance companies are such scam artists. We had the hail damage on 2 of the vehicles from that storm on the 14th. And of course, it was getting ready to storm again on Sunday, more hail expected. So the insurance agency called. They said, oh, we got to come out today. I'm like, why today? Well, we got to come out right now before these next storms come through. And I kept thinking, like, why do they have to come out like right now? Like, what's the big deal? And then I realized, and somebody told me on social media, of course, probably one of you guys, that, oh, well, if they come out and they survey your hail damage on your vehicles before the next storm, then you have to pay 2 deductibles. So that's why they do it that way. Such scammers. I hate the insurance companies. I do. I hate them all. I absolutely cannot stand them. They're biggest scammers there is. And let's see. Pam says, Soros. You said squirrel, but I think you meant Soros. Wasn't using his own money. He was using our money to pay off people. Yeah, that's exactly it, Pam. They're all using our money to turn around and cause us harm. But guys, that's it for me today. Nothing more to talk about. My time is out. But you know what? We'll be back tomorrow. We'll have Colonel Joe Adams joining us. Can't wait to talk to him, see what's going on out in the world. So much every day new going on. So I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Hope you guys all have a really fantastic day. And I will look forward to seeing you then. Be safe out there.